So let's talk about, first of all, I want to ask you just to tell us what the 7 triggers are. So now that we've got our messages, now we've got to put in the psychological aspects, the 7 triggers, what they are, and then before we get into each one, what do they do for us?
Okay, so the big drivers, the things that I try and make sure to put as many of them as possible to work in a given message are as follows.
Okay.
One is shame. Okay? And as you said, you use controversial. Some people are squeamish about, manipulating these issues. But one is shame, because nobody wants to be ashamed of themselves, or ashamed of the car they drive, or ashamed of the home they live in, or ashamed of the job they have, or ashamed of being overweight, the physical condition they're in, right? We say nobody wants to live in LooserTown. Okay. So when you call somebody out on this, it's a very powerful thing. The second one, not necessarily, by the way, in order, is emotional pain. So there's practical pain, right? I don't have enough money,
right?
And my car is being repoed, or my landlord is evicting me. That's practical pain, right? But it is the emotional attachment to those conditions that either move a person or do not move a person.
Like, for example, the dentist who's not making enough money, and his wife is like, "Hey, you're a dentist, you're a doctor. Look at my brother-in-law is a cardiac surgeon. Look at his,
Worse, my brother-in-law is a plumber.
Oh,
and he's out earning you.
Right.
So, it's time for everybody to kick in, because mom needs to go into assisted living, and the plumber can afford to kick more into the pot than us, and you're a damn dentist. How can this be, right? So now we start to attach emotional pain, right? And people are often not moved by practical pain.
Right.
They will sit and be stupid and be fat and be broke and not be moved to do much about it.
Right.
It is only when it becomes intensely personal and emotional it tends to move people. Third is anger or rage and resentment. So we say everybody's mad at somebody, right? And everybody feels they've been shortchanged by somebody. Everybody is resentful of something. And, so all political issues are driven by this. People's reaction, for example, to legal immigration and to illegal immigration is really often about they're taking my jobs, even though they're taking jobs you would never do.
Right.
So I mean, every political issue that drives huge numbers of people ties to anger and resentment.
So do you set up an enemy? Is that one of the ways to do it?
That's certainly, because if your enemy is my enemy, now we're buddies, right?
Right.
So, but you don't have to set it up so much as just remind people of it, okay? Because see, they are already mad at somebody, okay? The question is who, and how can we align our sales message to where they already are in relation to this person.
Was it, and I never get the copywriter right or the marketer right, enter the conversation. Was that Caples or
Robert Collier?
Robert Collier.
Enter the conversation.
That's what you're talking. You're saying enter the anger that's already inside of them.
Exactly
that's what you're saying, right?
The NLP term is saying, exactly. And so when you raise funds politically, if you raise them for a liberal politician or a liberal cause, there are already people and things that liberal donors are mad at. You just have to now poke that and make them madder and position you on the same side. If we go to the conservative side, there's people, so, pick an issue.
Right.
Guns. The liberals are all mad at the NRA and at everybody that wants to have 5 guns. Right? The conservatives are all mad at Harry Reid and, name 4. So all you got to do is get on the side of that, right? mysticism. So almost everybody actually believes in and wants to believe in magic, secrets, conspiracies against them. Okay? So overweight people are very eager to believe that there is a giant conspiracy out there in the food industry and the media that has been programming them to be uncontrollably fat since they were watching cartoons and eating Lucky Charms when they were 5, and the food is all infused with addictive substances. And obviously, if you're markedly overweight, believing in that mysticism is much more palatable than believing in personal responsibility, right? If you are that dentist who has low net worth and poor income, it's much easier to believe that there's some conspiracy against dentists, etc. Or on the other side, to leap at the lure of magic. Okay? So mysticism sells everything from diet pills to handing your money over to Bernie Madoff. So very sophisticated people hand their money over to somebody like Bernie again and again and again, being told you can't understand the model I use to make money.
It's too sophisticated.
It's too sophisticated. It's secret. It's on the floor of the offices we never let anybody go to. It's in the magic cave. And highly sophisticated investors fall for that, just like dumb poor people fall for it. It doesn't matter. It's human nature. So we try and put some mysticism into the formula.
Let me just stop you. I think some people might be watching this right now and thinking, well, this is manipulating people.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yes. Right? And so everything you do is either successful manipulation or an unsuccessful attempt at manipulation or a surrender to manipulation. So, like it or not, you were manipulated into choosing the suit and shoes you're wearing by some deliberate and intentional forces. Now, that might be your spouse, that might be advertising, might be a peer group, and what they approve of and don't approve of, but it's all a form of manipulation. The question is not, is your customer going to be affected significantly by psychological manipulation and manipulative forces? That's fact, not question. The questions are you going to be on the right side of that cash register? Are you going to deliver good value for the monetary exchange that you create? But if we leave it to fact and basic need, first of all, most people will own very little. Because your house is full of stuff you don't need. Your car is full of stuff you don't need. If your stated ambition is to do extremely well financially, by any means, but particularly through advertising, marketing, and sales, you cannot shy from the issue of manipulation at all. That is what it is. A word like the word scheme, to which people often have a visceral negative reaction to, but by definition, there's really nothing wrong with the word. It's a synonym for strategy, for which nobody has a visceral negative reaction. Fifth is revenge, vindication, and redemption. So again, almost everybody feels they are downtrodden in some way or another. They have been put down, disrespected. There's a big thing going on as we record this. Chicago let Trump build a giant building, and they're now shocked that he has put his name on it in giant-sized letters, and everybody is upset about this, and the mayor is upset, and the council is upset, and media is upset, and unflattering comparisons to Trump being like a giant dog peeing to mark his territory on the landscape of, well, so Trump does that on all his properties. So first of all, it ought not be a big surprise.
Right.
He does it on all his properties, and he does it for practical reasons, advertising, promotion, etc. But there's no doubt Trump has had his entire life, and still does, a bit of a chip on his shoulder about the other old money, traditional real estate developers who at best tolerate him, to do a deal with him, but as soon as he is out of earshot, they are disrespecting him and making fun of him.
Right.
And so, yes, it's motivated as a form of revenge.
Wow.
The best story, because you sell with story, right, on this. I heard I was very young. So you want to get, this was like standing ovation and people just peeing on themselves. So I was at a big Amway rally, and one of the first award-level diamond direct distributors, a guy by the name of Charlie Marsh, 8th grade education, cop, etc. And so Charlie described eloquently the experience that pretty much everybody in the room shared, which is getting in the business, inviting now friends, family members, and relatives to come over for the meeting, and now at 7 o'clock, standing there alone, everybody having disappointed you, and ultimately them refusing and rejecting and making fun of and all that. So now you fast forward to 2 years later, and Charlie has a very substantial income, and he is leaving on the Amway paid for first-class cruise. Right? And so he tells the story of inviting now everybody in his circle of influence that he had invited to all the meetings, down to the Bon Voyage party, which they all come to because there's free booze and free food, and everybody's going to gather on the deck and wave him goodbye, which his wave to them is the third finger salute. Now, see, that's a very powerful sales story.
Right.
And Charlie told it for a sales reason.
Right.
It does many of the other
Sure.
that we already talked about. And it gets a visceral reaction, and everybody has in their mind some equivalent of that they'd love to be able to do, right? So again, weight loss, when you survey women about weight loss, and there aren't a lot of surveys done with guys because it's a small part of the business.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily being gender insensitive, but so the surveys of women weight loss buyers, okay, one of the top 5 motives is being seen by ex-husband or boyfriend who dumped me.
Wow.
Now thinner
It's revenge.
and hotter.
Right.
It's this.
It's revenge.
It's
right.
revenge. That's
Right.
what it is.
And so if you're crafting a message, that should,
it's short of like going over and setting fire to his car.
Right.
Okay, but
Right.
it's,
Right. Awesome.
fear and insecurity.
Number 6.
Yeah, number 6, fear and insecurity. So the richest people in the world, the most successful people in the world, the most powerful people in the world still have some insecurity about what it is that they do, who they are, what they look like. They don't know how to dress well. They don't have social graces. They're insecure about something. And it can be broadened from its core. So, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People was really an insecurity play. It is, I really don't know how to make people like me, how to be popular, how to influence people in the workplace, so I stay silent and I sort of hide in the corner behind the potted palm, right? And so I don't care. You can find a billionaire and they're insecure about something,
right.
and they're afraid of something, and those things can be broadened.
Okay.
And then last 7 is greed and sloth.
Okay.
Okay? So greed never goes out of style.
Right.
And again, people who should know better, people who have no real need to pile on more money. Martha Stewart, worth a fortune, gets herself in all kinds of trouble over a nickel dime stock tip,
Right.
And refusing to reverse it, to get out of trouble. And you can see example after example after example of that. If you watch a week's worth of the show on CNBC called American Greed,
Right.
I mean, these are good, decent, hardworking, salt of the earth people. There are whole church congregations conned by somebody promising ridiculous investment returns with no explanation really for how we are getting them. There are smart and sophisticated people. Everybody sort of responds to it. Everybody intellectually knows there's no such thing as free, but geez, we want free, you know. And then Sloth, that pretty much never goes out of style either.
Right.
It's a very small percentage of the population that is not somewhat lazy, at least about some things.
Right.
So when you can incorporate easy into your copy and take away the this is going to be hard, it's going to be heavy lifting, there's, you know, all of that, and you can put a greed play in there, that you are either securing the bargain of the century, or you are putting yourself in a position where you are going to do infinitely better financially as a result of this thing. So those are the 7. Now the trick is to use as many as you can without one neutering, you know, the other,
Right.
and get them ranked in the right way for the audience that you are appealing to, and to decide how overt to be versus how subtle to be, sort of how far you go in just smacking somebody in the head with it versus sort of easing it into a message.
Or telling it as part of a story.
Telling it as part of a story, having a testimonial tell it for you. You know, there's devices.
This is powerful stuff. Stay in character. This is
sorry.
powerful. This is powerful stuff.
Sorry, I forgot we were doing TV.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Okay,
We gotta
then
go.
we'll
Let's go.